And again, I'm slotting myself by saying I'm an extrovert, but I can say that I am highly activated by being around people, which makes it really work well for me to be a teacher and a retreat leader and a speaker and all those things. But I also know that when people say, hey, let's all go out afterwards, it's so nice to see you, I know that the answer is, thank you so much for coming, but I need to go back to the hotel room. So I've learned how to protect the sensitivity. And anybody who comes on my retreat, anybody who wants to write is likely a highly sensitive person who is full of empathy and sometimes to a fault. So a lot of what I teach in the retreat at Haven and then also in this book is how to manage your sensitivity. And I call it the inner colander. So it's like, let's not have total armor. Sometimes you need it, but let's have like holes in the armor. And maybe you get to decide like, oh, I feel really safe. So the holes can be big and lots of water can flow through. Oh, now these have to be really small. Hardly, that's the inner colander. That's one of my ways to help navigate that high sensitivity and propensity for deep empathy. I'm trying to eradicate the tortured artist paradigm.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter of the Author Podcast, where we talk to authors. We want to encourage you as an author in your journey, and we talk to readers and encourage you as readers to support these amazing authors that come on the show. I'm thrilled to have Laura on the podcast today. She helps authors with a writing retreat. You can get away, write with other authors, learn to grow your craft and become a better author and find your journey, find your voice. Laura's definitely going to help you with that. And she's got great books for us to fall in love with as a reader as well. And I'm excited to have Laura here on the podcast. Laura, welcome to Living the Next Chapter.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me. And thanks for all you do to support writers and readers and books. We need more people like you doing this work. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you. And right back at you, because you do the exact same thing. You help a lot of authors. Let's talk about your haven that you've created. It's more than heaven, it's haven for everyone. As authors, tell me more about this.
Well, let's see. So if I took a right outside of my driveway and drove for 40 minutes, I'd be in your beautiful country, because we're just south of Alberta. And I have lived in Whitefish, Montana, in the Flathead Valley for 30 years, even though I originally hail from Chicago. And I have led the writing life with all my mind and heart. I have sat at that intersection of heart and mind and craft that is the writing life since 1988, when I realized, much to my parents' dismay, that I was a writer and that I was going to write books for the rest of my life, no matter what would be in my piggy bank or wouldn't be. And so to that end, I've written in lots of genres. Fiction is my favorite, but I'm more known for nonfiction. And that catapulted me into the world of speaking specifically to women for some reason, women's wellness circuit. So what happened was that I was suddenly out there, having lived a very humble, quiet writing life for a long time in Montana, to being in big, huge cities at these big, huge women's conventions with like 10,000 people in attendance and big, huge keynotes like Hillary Clinton and Madeleine Albright, and then little old me. And so they, as a writer, we're students of the human being. And living here, I hang out with, white-tailed deer and horses and cows and stuff. So it was a massive field study in what gets in the way of people's self-expression in the realm of empowerment at those conferences. And it's why I started Haven, because the three things I heard the most, and I addressed them in my book, The Wild Why, which is already out. I'm in the middle of a book tour, The Wild Why.
Ta-da!
I don't have a voice, I'm stuck, and I'm not creative. I don't have a voice, I'm stuck, and I'm not creative. Those were the three things that I heard at those women's conferences. And, I spoke with lots and lots of women in those years, and that was like 2012, let's call it. And I thought, I don't want to be up on these stages. And these women, they don't need to be sitting here. Maybe they do, but in theater style seating with the tote bag in their hands full of stuff that they don't really need. What they really need, in my opinion, if I could put it in the tote bag, would be to come to Montana in a small circle of people. It's open to all gender. You have to be accepted to come at all different places in your writing path, and to look into each other's eyes and to be held in a safe haven. And that's when I started Haven. And I have now worked with over 1,000 people from all over the world. Lots of Canadians come down here. I always give Canadians a special rate because the exchange rate is no fun for you guys. But we love our Canadian neighbors. And I've worked with over 1,000 people from all over the world. I have a foundation to help support cost for people. And it's ranked pretty much the #1 writing retreat in the U.S. So I'm pretty proud of it. It just goes to show that if you have an idea and you put your heart out there with some level of expertise, maybe people will come, and they have lots of them. I've helped lots of people write books, publish books, all of it. But the main thing is that I want them to connect with themselves through the written word. That's my answer to your question.
It's a great answer. Let's talk about the foundation, because you never know who's listening to this, right? And you just don't know. And there might be someone listening going, I could easily support this. I'd love to support this. Tell me, how do people do that, and what do they do?
I like the way you think, because I am not a very good businesswoman. Running a foundation, it's a 501c3 nonprofit. It's a full-time job, and I already have like 3 full-time jobs between leading Haven and booking Haven. You can't just sign up for it. You have to be accepted into the program, and then also, of course, writing and editing. I barely have time to run the foundation and raise funds for it. So yes, if you're out there wanting to fund your potential favorite next best-selling author or book writer, I know a foundation that could use some money in it. In fact, I'm really excited because I'm on book tour, like I said, and I've been doing workshops as well. I love getting into teacher mode. Speaker mode, I'm okay at. I like it. I like to speak, but I'm really much more comfortable in the teacher role. And so I've been doing workshops called the Wild Y workshops, not just for writers at all. So it's been fun to mix up my programs. And a lot of people are interested in coming, and they just can't afford it. It's $8,500. It's a chunk of change. Yeah. I'm really excited because we do have, I think I've just depleted the last of the scholarships for 2025 June retreats, but I think we still have some scholarship money for the fall retreats. But if there was more in that account, I could book the next 2 years. So if you're out there, you're a philanthropist, and you've got some dough that you'd love to throw my way. I don't know how it works though in Canada. In the United States, you get a tax, credit kind of.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it works in Canada.
Whether or not you get a receipt, support anyway.
That's right.
Because we need to get more authors writing, help them to find their voice, right?
Yeah, I've probably helped 100 people publish books. But anybody who promises you that they can get you published, just run for the hills, because they're either delusional or they're just flat out lying. And those people are often charging a lot of money. But I'm in my office right now, and I've got a whole closet full of published books by Haven people. And I'm really proud of all the sweat, blood, tears, honesty, heart language that's in those books.
So if we could like peer into a writing workshop with you and all of your amazing people in one room, if we could kind of look in the room, what does that look like? What does it feel like for somebody who doesn't know or maybe nervous about writing in a small cohort like that? Can you give us a little insight? Like, what would we see?
I always say, I love that you asked that question. I always say that Haven meets you where you need to be met. And it's not about me. If the program is about the retreat facilitator, again, run for the hills. It has to be about the program. I designed the program based on having lived the writing life with all my heart for so long, but it's the program that holds you, and then I hold the program, and then the people out at this beautiful ranch where I lead the retreat hold me. So it's a really healthy symbiosis. That helps with people's fear. I also, again, designed the retreat that I would want to go on. So it's not all full of people who want to win a Pulitzer Prize in literature. That sounds terrifying and competitive, and Haven is neither of those. But I also wouldn't want to go on a retreat full of a bunch of people who are just beginning, because I'd like to be able to sit at lunch or be in our social hour together, or taking a walk with a new writer friend in the woods of Montana and say, you self-published a book and Simon and Schuster picked it up. Tell me about that process. Or, you do a Substack every single week and you're in a full-time, mother of 3 kids and have 3 jobs. Like, how do you do it? So it's really a beautiful thing, because I always tell people, whatever is your currency outside of human heart language in your regular life, and willingness to put your heart in your hand, support the program, be respectful of the program, my facilitation of it, and the people in it, whatever is that currency, like letters after your name or social status or what's in your piggy bank, it just goes out the window at Haven. And the currency at Haven is the kind of currency that I wish our whole world lived with, which is just kindness, goodness, curiosity, awe. And it's what led me to write the book, frankly, because again, so even at Haven, I still hear I'm stuck. And you don't hear little children saying they're stuck. That's something that someone tells us along the way, and then we believe it, and then we habituate that thought pattern, and it doesn't serve us.
So if we could be in the first 5 minutes of sitting down with you at this retreat at Haven, we're all gathered around there in this nice, cozy environment, and the first few minutes of our conversation with you, how do you open this up to us in an inviting way? I'm thinking of a listener right now who's an author who hasn't been with you yet, but could still benefit from how you introduce Haven to a group of authors for the first time. What kind of things? What's your big message in that first introduction that a listener could apply today?
Yeah. Oh, could apply to their lives without coming to Haven?
Yeah, they're coming, but right now, what could they steal from you?
Okay. Well, I just got off the phone with somebody who's going to come, and so and then I'm speaking with 2 more people later today, because there's a lot of interest in it. So the first thing is, well, I want everybody to know that you do have a 1-hour phone call with me beforehand to make sure it's a good match. So that first hour of Haven, people already are primed, like they understand what they've got ahead of them. So it's from a Wednesday to a Sunday. You wouldn't want it to go longer than that, because it's 7 hours of class and workshops a day, but it never feels like traditional education. I call it learning and teaching from the inside out. So the first night we convene, we have a very gentle introduction with a very light writing prompt that helps us to get to know each other. And I always tell people, you don't have to be a writer to come, just a seeker. And so you get these seekers that would never meet in their normal lives. So, of course, that first night, they're all looking at each other like, oh, gosh, I hope I'm going to connect with a group. I'm not really a people person. Many people who come are introverts. But, they've been accepted into the program. So they know what the program is, but they also know that a part of the program is playfulness. It's designed to really help you with those refusals that so many people have in their lives. Like, what I have to say doesn't matter. So at Haven, you really get to be held, and you feel it from the very beginning. And then by Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, that's when we move into our schedule. We have a 4-hour class in the morning that is all a series of very short guided writing prompts that you can apply to anything you care about, in any theme or question that you have in any genre. And they're short because if I allow them to be long, that's when the inner critter, I call her or him or they, whatever you want to say, that inner critter is a scared child who knows exactly what to say to break our hearts. And in my case, she has had a lot of practice. And when she's really scared, she's really mean. So I try in that morning class to keep people really occupied so that inner critter can just take a nap. She's really exhausted from all that mean, scared behavior. And so then we get a chance to play. So that's the morning class. Then there's afternoon free time. And then in the evening, that's when we have our workshops when you can read stuff, raw stuff, new stuff, and step outside of good, bad, right, wrong. Those measuring sticks that society throws at us, GPA and the big one, perfection, and take a free fall into a free zone. And I'm holding the net, and I've never once dropped it in 1,000 people. So that's what you can expect. That's sort of the overview. Okay. But a lot of people are really scared. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because they hope that it's everything that I promised them that it's going to be. And it is every time. And it's not just a retreat. It's not just an investment in the education of writing, but it's also a chance to be nourished. And that's some nurtured, taken care of. And that's usually the surprise piece about Haven.
So the right tool for the right job makes the job easier. My question to you, what is an example of a good writing prompt that helps somebody to kind of get the ball rolling, maybe shake off the dust and cobwebs from their writing? Can you give us an example of a great writing prompt that you're just like, oh, this is a great one. I love using this one.
Well, I never ever divulge the writing prompts because if I did that, then it would activate the inner critter, right? Because even my own sister and my cousins and good friends are among the 1,000 people that have come, and they're like, "Come on, give us a clue." And I never ever told them because I want them to go in like children to find that playful nature. You know, the little children aren't really thinking about what comes next, and they're not really thinking about preparation or that measuring stick of being good or bad. So I won't give away any of the writing prompts from Haven. However,
yes.
I will say that the Wild Why, the book, while it's not for writers, there is a teaching component at the end of each chapter called Your Wild Why. So the book is a story-forward book asking a lot of questions, encouraging the reader to step into their awe and their curiosity, which is my definition of what wonder is. And I'll go into that in a minute when I suspect we'll start talking about the book. But yes. I love that we're starting with Haven because that is one of my that's like the surprise chapter of my whole life. And so, and I love it. So I'll say that one of the prompts in the book that I love that is not about writing, it's about speaking. That is after a chapter called The Tiger in the Room. And that's a chapter about 3/4 into the book wherein a friend of mine who was a journalist was traveling across the country, and she was going to really teeny little, this country, the U.S., little teeny countries, towns across the country, and interviewing regular everyday folks. And she said, why don't you get in your truck and drive down here? And it's Montana, so it's like a 9-hour drive, and dodging moose and things. And she said, bring your guitar and bring your stories, and let's just hang out all day long and tell each other our stories. When's the last time, you do sort of do this, as a job, but I've been talking across this country on book tour and saying, what would it take for you to actually ask a person who's safe in your life, for 2 hours of their time to tell the story of how you really are, instead of saying you're fine when you're bashed and bruised and even bloodied inside. You don't owe everybody your whole truth, but what would it take for you to actually create safe space around you to tell your story in response to how are you? That's one of the prompts. And then to have it be reciprocal if that other person wants to do it. And if someone says, I can't find 2 hours, then maybe you might reconsider that friendship. Because if you think about, if they say yes to lunch and you live in a city, how long does it take to prepare, drive, find traffic, have lunch, and then do it all backwards? So in a couple places on book tour, people laughed at that idea, it was a tall order for a friend to spend 2 hours listening to you. I don't think so. I think it's incredibly important. The other one that I love, and we do something similar to it at Haven, is the chapter that's all about the inner critter that I was talking about before, and finding the awareness. That's where it begins. So to spend a day with a small notebook with you. And I'm not into tips and tricks and 10 easy steps. It's just, it doesn't work for me, and I don't really see it working in the world. Sometimes maybe a quick little tip might help somebody, but that's not the way I roll. You won't find any bullet points in the Wild Why. But awareness is what it's all about in the realm of self-expression, whether you're using your pen or your voice or just even beginning in your thoughts. So get a little notebook, dedicate it to the inner critter, and track your day. Do a whole day. If a day feels too much, do 1 hour, and track when you start to feel bad in your body, like you're holding your breath. There's this feeling of kind of hunched over, fetal, protecting yourself, shoulders up in your ears. Maybe your stomach is upset. Check in with your thought patterns. And I almost guarantee that your thought patterns are not serving you. They're probably sabotaging you, And they're that inner critter being really a scared child. And if you write the dialogue down, then you get it out of your head, out of your body, onto the page, and you can look at it and say, oh, this is not serving me. And it's running my life.
I love how you name it inner critter because it's kind of been overused, that inner critic and all that. We hear people talk about it, and your imposter syndrome. There's a lot of people who talk about this, but the way you frame it and the context that you put the inner critter in, it makes it doesn't seem so daunting. It feels a little bit more something that you can address, you can recognize, and you can deal with, instead of this big cloud which seems to have no end. You kind of I feel like I can deal with this through your lens. I like this.
Because if we can't find playfulness, Dave, I mean, especially when the true hardships of life hit, serious illness, loss, death, grief, we all die at the end of this thing. We're mortals. This is life. Yeah. This is a brutally beautiful and heartbreaking thing called life, regardless of your faith base, it's or no faith base. So it's like, but we can all find our way back to what we knew as children by birthright, and that is our wonder. And when we're in our wonder, we're not in this place of self-sabotage. We're not even really aware of how our self-expression is received or not received. It happens pretty quickly, though. Those playground politics, people are mean, kids are mean, but that's learned behavior. And maybe I'm not a psychologist. That's the thing I love about promoting this book. I'm not a wonderologist, We all can find our wonder. It's in us. It cannot die, but it feels very, very squelched sometimes in our lives. And I know, because I've been through times like that too. So I feel that we can always find playfulness in us somewhere. And it serves us. It can be actually life force. So
for the Wild Why, you've mentioned already, it's not specifically written to an audience of authors on their journey of becoming an author. Who would you say, in a big idea, would you say your audience is for the Wild Why? The reason I'm asking is, in podcasting, the first question we ask people when they want to start a show, why do you want to do this? Like, what's your why? It's really important to know why you're doing this. So I'm thinking I like this, the Wild Why, for a large context of content creators, anybody that's making anything in the world. Tell me who you think your audience is when you were writing this.
I'm holding back the teacher side of me, but I'm going to start with that because I'm of service and so are you in this way. So, and then I'll answer the question, and hopefully I won't go too tangential. So
yeah.
So I teach a lot of people how to structure memoirs, novels, short stories, personal essays, etc. But lots and lots of people have a story that they want to tell through the written word, which falls into the memoir category. So I teach a 2-hour class on it. You can get it on my website, lauramunson.com, or you can come to Haven. I do a lot of work with people writing memoir. And what I figured out over 1,000 people, they're not all writing memoir, but lots of them have been, is that it's exactly what you're saying, Dave. It's not that it happened, even though what happened might be cause for, I've got a book, or I want to start a podcast because I've been through XYZ pain. It's usually pain. I've been through pain and I've had an epiphany and I've worked hard to practice healing, and therefore I have something to say, and then I'm coming from a place of service, so I'm going to start a podcast, or I'm going to write a memoir. In my case, it's the latter kind of population that I work with. It's not that it happened. It's why it's important to you. And if you're not willing to step into that, why it's important to you, even if you've got lots of letters after your name, especially actually if you've got a lot of letters after your name, it's not going to ultimately build a bridge to the reader, or in your case, the audience, because we have to use that why, which is why my book is called The Wild Why, to connect with ourselves. And so, as I know, in doing the podcast, and I can tell you in helping edit books and leading the retreats, helping people structure their memoirs, in this context, I'm learning on the job all the time. but it's because I'm ferociously hungry and curious and in awe of the human species. I know you can relate with this. In terms of the book piece, the audience is anybody who can relate with, I mean, it's dedicated to, you can hear me ruffling pages. That's a no-no on the podcast, but you can handle it. This book is for anyone who has ever said, I don't have a voice. You do, I promise. You just lost it for a while. Come with me. Let's find it again. That's the call to action at the very beginning. But check this out. This was from my 4th grade journal. And if anyone out there is nodding their head in some iteration, this book is for you. 4th grade journal. So that's like 9 years of age. I talk too much. I ask too many questions. I cry too easily. I laugh too loud. I'm too sensitive. I'm not sure what that means. And I feel bad about all of it. Laura Munson, 4th grade journal. I talk too much. I ask too many questions. I cry too easily. I laugh too loud. I'm too sensitive. I'm not sure what that means. And I feel bad about all of it. So I call that the wonder wound. That's when that's, and again, I'm not a psychologist, but something tells me, I've worked with lots of educators, that short of serious abuse, the inner critter is born at around age 12 in 6th grade or earlier. And once that inner critter is formed, there's a wound. And that wound turns into habituated thinking. And that habituated thinking, I'm 58 now, I've had a lot of practice. We've all had a lot of practice, regardless of what age you are. And so I'm not saying that we're going to get rid of that inner critter. I used to think, like in my memoir, that was an international and New York Times bestselling book called This Is Not the Story You Think It Is. That book was all about tuning into your thought patterns during a crisis, a marital crisis. But the book was really about finding emotional liberation based on how to tune into your thought patterns. This book is more about looking at the genesis of that wound when it comes to self-expression. And for me, what I did was I took my ball and went home. But I really took my pen and went home and started writing in my journal and having that be my safe place. And I've written like 24 unpublished books. I've lost track. Some of them are good. Most of them were exercises in learning. 3 are published. 1 comes out next year about writing, actually. But this book, again, just to concrete answers, this book is not for writers. I call it a teaching memoir. It's story forward teaching that sort of says, I'll go first, and hopefully that will help you take the torch and look into your own wonder wound.
The beauty of doing podcasting is I have another show that talks to podcasters. And again, why the whole topic of understanding your why is super important. So I'm going to be sharing this conversation with them as well outside of our podcast today, because I think they need to hear this conversation. And I think they need this book as well.
All right. Yeah. Well, golly gee. Thank you.
There you go.
May this help people. I never meant to. Here's something that you can share with them too. A while ago, about 2008, I was met with so much rejection from publishing. I'd published some small things, and I had a great literary agent in New York City, and I really knew my craft, and she almost got a bunch of books published, and then we just couldn't because I didn't have a platform, because I moved to the middle of Montana, and it was before podcasts, it was before websites and building a platform. So it was really kind of like, again, I was hanging out with deer and small children and my muse, and one day she said, I can't send your stuff out anymore, Laura, because you have no platform. And New York Publishing, while they love your work, they need to see that you have some sort of a platform. I didn't know what that meant. It was a very new word. We didn't have social media yet. And I just felt bereft. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, somehow get on the Today Show, or, I don't know, ride my horse onto the set. Like, it felt so bereft that my books were getting so close to being published with these huge, big 5 New York publishers, but then shut down in the marketing department because I was a no name from Montana, and you didn't really have the ability to grow your name in those days. Like, good news for all you out there. Like, there's so much more hope now in all levels of self-expression. So in that moment, I call it a hinge moment. I thought, why am I even doing this if I'm good enough that I'm getting the thumbs up from these huge editorial departments, but then getting shut down by these big, huge marketing and publicity departments? What's the point? I mean, I love doing this. I say writing is my practice, my prayer, my meditation, my way of life, and sometimes my way to life. But then why am I really doing this if I really, truly want to be published, and not just for my ego? Because anyone who's a writer out there, they know the ego never gets to explode as a writer. It just doesn't. You can try. My first day of this tour, I was walking down the street in New York City on my way to, this wonderful art gallery. And that night I was going to have my lunch, and I'm walking in my new boots, which really were not very high. It wasn't like I had like stiletto heels or something. And I turfed it. I twisted my ankle and fell to the ground, blew a huge hole in my one of two pants that I was planning on rationing for like the whole month book tour.
Oh, no.
Totally rolled my ankle. It fell to the ground. People stopped and were like, "Are you okay?" And I thought, yep, see, there it is. Writer's ego never gets to explode. But anyway, I digress. So that day, when my agent said, "I can't send your stuff out anymore, Laura. You're one of my favorite writers that I represent, but you don't have a platform," I thought, why do I even do this thing? So there's your why. And there it is for anybody who's a writer, anybody who's a podcaster, getting into this business, or anybody at all. And so I wrote down a statement of intention, and I believe that's what changed everything. So here it is. You ready?
Oh, I'm sitting up straight.
I'm sure. I write. So here it is. I'll say it twice. I write to shine a light on a dim or otherwise pitch black corner to provide relief for myself and others. I write to shine a light on a dim or otherwise pitch black corner to provide relief for myself and others. And that shocked me because I'd never, relief for myself. Relief from what? Well, this beautiful and heartbreaking thing called life. For myself and others, I'm writing out of a place of service. I had no idea, Dave, no idea. And that's when everything changed for me. That's when I wrote the short version of that already written memoir, This Is Not the Story You Think It Is. It went viral in the Modern Love column in the New York Times. Suddenly I had Oprah calling and Good Morning America and the Today Show, et cetera, et cetera. So that moment when I got that intentional, that's when I went from being this feeling of being this desperate beggar with no power to getting it real. And then suddenly, somehow, the world responded and I was suddenly a chooser. But again, the ego never gets to explode because if you know what your intention is behind what you do, which is back to your question of why. And the title of my book, The Wild Why, Stories and Teachings to Uncover Your Wonder.
What's the intent behind wild in the title? What's wild about a why?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel it coming on. Can I use that? What's wild behind the why? I love it. Okay. Well, so I was walking around in the woods one day, as one does here in Montana. And we have a lot of stumps in the woods behind my house. And I like to sit on stumps. And I like them because they're off trail and it just means I'm meandering. And I don't know, there was a beautiful living tree there and the roots are still in the ground and you can count the rings. And so I sit on a lot of stumps, but you can sit on park benches. You can sit on your front stoop, but I do a lot of sitting. And one day it's kind of like a walking meditation, I guess, or a sitting meditation. Sitting on stump meditation. And so I was thinking, gosh, everybody's so scared of the word creative. And I think that's because I strongly hold that it's because in traditional education as children, we're slotted. You're a jock. You're a brain. You're artsy. You're pretty. You're handsome. You're whatever it is. And that does a great disservice to people, especially
Right.
when people say, you're not creative, but you are a brain or you are a jock. Everything we do is an act of creation. Every thought we think, everything that comes out of our mouth, our facial expressions, our actions, the way we adorn ourselves, the way we adorn our living rooms, whatever it is, everything is an act of creation. That's a story and it's not true. You are creative. So I thought maybe I need to get rid of the word creativity. And I thought, what's behind creativity? That's when I thought wonder. But then I thought, well, that might even be a bigger word for people, like more nebulous. What's behind wonder? And then I thought, well, I think it's curiosity. But more than that, it's awe. And I think we're high on curiosity in this culture, at least. But I think we're low on awe. I think we look at something like a rainbow and we think, wow, look at the rainbow, knowing that a rainbow only lasts a few minutes. But instead of just stopping and beholding the rainbow, instead suddenly we're looking at our screens thinking what makes a rainbow way too quickly. That happens, I think, way too often to way too many people, that their noses are in their screens because of something they're curious about. But what if we actually, the problem with that, with this example, is that now we're looking at our screens instead of looking at the rainbow. So what if we gave ourselves permission to be in awe more often? And so that overused word, awesome, it's not so awesome. So there's a whole section in this book about how we've diluted the word awesome. So the wild piece has a lot to do with the fact that I've walked around in a lot of woods living out here, and where I live, it's grizzly bear territory, and so there's a lot of, you're on the food chain, not that they're lurking around trying to get you. They really just want you to leave them alone, and they want to leave you alone. But there's some level of humility living where I've lived near Glacier National Park, which we share with our friends in Canada, in Waterton. And I remember I was just in Seattle on book tour, and I remember living there, and it's gray all the time, a lot of time. So when Mount Rainier shows itself, this huge, like 14,000 foot peak, volcanic peak, I remember when I lived there thinking, if I don't stop in awe when I see this peak, then I'll know something is wrong with me. And I used that. I did 3 events in Seattle. And I used that, and I got a laugh every time, because I think, and if I had them for longer, I would say I would actually do a whole awe and Mount Rainier workshop with them. Have you lost your awe? You will know if you've lost your awe because you're not stopping to look at Mount Rainier when it shows itself. So that's the wild piece. And I don't, like in my novel that's published, Willa's Grove, it takes place in Montana, and there's a line in it that I use all the time. I am not Willa, but all those characters are of me. And one of the characters, Jane, who lives very much in New York City and the suburbs of New York City, she says, and I hear this on my retreats a lot, I love who I've been out here in nature. I just don't think I can bring who I've been here out in nature back home. And Willa says, but Jane, you are nature. You are nature in a Midtown Manhattan elevator. You are nature in a subway. You are nature. Yeah. And that, to me, I believe that with all my heart, and I've lived it. And I just lived it in Midtown Manhattan in an elevator because I sprained my ankle, like I said, and I am so claustrophobic. I hate taking elevators, but I was like, well, I'm going to go see if I can be nature in a Midtown Manhattan elevator as a claustrophobe. And guess what? I felt it. And we're not separate. And I learned that from living here. That's the wild in the wild why.
When you have your next retreat and you have your authors there with you, I would love to propose that you take them for a short little nature walk to your favorite stumps and address the idea of being stumped as an author. Ooh. And sit there on the stumps and look around you and start writing, right? Like take it in and embrace the wild, right? So if you're stumped, go sit on a stump. What do you think?
Because I love that instead of I'm stuck, I'm stumped. I love that. I don't leave the retreats at my house though, but there's always stumps placed in Montana.
Right.
But I love that idea. Good job, Dave. You should have a podcast.
right? I love what you do. You're making me think, and I love how you show up. Like, I understand why people want to work with you just by listening to you talk and how you share. I think your book has such a wide, vast audience that is going to benefit from this. What are you hearing when you go through all of your book tour? What are people saying to you? What kind of feedback are you getting? Tell me what's happening from your perspective.
Well, Maria Shriver's Sunday paper just selected this as their pick, which was a huge. I mean, I've written for Maria Shriver's Sunday paper, but I was really shocked. You know, I this book was turned down by some pretty big time New York publishers. And because I, surprise, surprise, tend to kind of make my own lane in life, and that it doesn't always lend itself well to the business world, which at the end of the day, if you're a writer out there, listen, it's a business. You've got to do it for yourself. You've got to find the support that you and your writing deserves, whether you want to publish or not. But New York Publishing kind of couldn't figure out what to do with this book because it's kind of a memoir, but it's also kind of a self-help book. It's going to be in the self-help, department or section of the bookstores. It is. It says it right on the back of the book, self-help. But it's not going to be, like I said, it's not full of tips and tricks and steps and hacks. And that's just not the way I am, because we live our life in stories. I guarantee, and like I said, I've spoken a lot. I guarantee that if I tell a story, or if you're listening to a speaker that you respect, it's the story that you're going to remember. And so this book is full of stories, kind of this idea, like, here's my point. Here's my call to action. I'll tell a story. Now I'll pass the baton and give you an opportunity. I hope you'll take it in the Your Wild Wise section to tell your story to yourself and maybe to others in different ways, or just find new awareness. So now I forgot your question. I got all excited about the book. Oh, what are people saying along the way?
Yeah.
So people are, I think they think that they're coming to see me as a memoirist, or they're coming with a friend who says you need to come because I did her writing retreat. These events, I mean, they've been packed, like 100 people. You know, even in little teeny bookstores, the bookstore people, please support your independent bookstores, are like going into the basement to bring up more folding chairs, and there are people sitting on the ground. And it's like, I had one journalist say, who interviewed me, because I've been having conversation partners on the stage across the country, because it's nice to be in conversation. You know, how can I promote a book about wonder with all that's going on in our brutal and broken and worried world? And it's like, oh, it's precisely because of our worried world that we need our wonder. And it's not just a silly, frilly idea. To me, without wonder, we don't have empathy. And without empathy, we don't have civilization. It's that vital to me, especially having empathy for people who are quite different from ourselves. And not that we have to respect everybody or love everybody, but we can certainly be curious of people, especially those who are different from ourselves. And as a practice, especially because of what's going on in our world. And so what has struck me from, I started off in New York. I did stuff in Connecticut and New York State, and then up Boston. And then I went all the way to Portland, Oregon, because when Powell's bookstore, which is a mecca, says yes, you get on an airplane and you go to Powell's. And then I came back to Chicago, where I'm from originally, did 3 events, one at the American Writers Museum, one with the iconic bookstore, and I can go on and on. But then maybe I went to San Francisco, did Book Passage and 2 workshops there, and then up to Seattle, now home for a few days, and then I'm hitting Texas. I've never been to Texas in my life, and then I'll be hitting kind of the summer, the eastern seaboard of the U.S. And what's happened to me every single time is this surprise, but yet inner knowingly not surprised. Nice sentence, Laura. That people are sitting there nodding and crying. A lot of people are crying because I don't think it's out of sadness. I think it's out of relief that somebody's saying it's okay to stop saying you're fine when you're not fine. It's okay to find a safe place for your self-expression. It's okay to wander in your life, whether you live in the woods or wherever you live. It's okay to ask your own wild why, to track your thought patterns. If we were sitting in a sandbox and we were really wobbly little kids, we wouldn't be sitting there comparing shovels and buckets. It would just be like, hey, can I borrow your shovel? Sure. And we would just be like making a castle together, or the seashore, like, oh, here's some pebbles for your turret, or what. Let's join our moats and see if they hold water so that our dragons can play. And there's just this knowing that we have as children that we have got to get back to. And not just because we have extra time and it's something frivolous. It's vital to our well-being. And I believe this with all my heart. And I'm watching this book give its message. I have a friend who's a Native American, Blackfeet. And she said, this book holds medicine, Laura. And it's your job to deliver the medicine. And I ride horses, so I keep thinking of myself like, it's not about me. Like, I wrote the book, but I'm like on a horse and I've got like medicine for the village. And I'm like, I don't know what. And I'm like galloping across the tundra with all these. And I'm watching it give its medicine. It's pretty amazing.
I love it. I have one question to wrap up our conversation. I could talk to you all day, but I know you have things to do. Take us to your website, where we can get the Wild Why. Where we can be in touch with you about Haven and all of the stuff, and sponsor and help other people come and work with you. Take us to the website, and then I have a question to wrap up.
LauraMunson.com. Easy. LauraMunson. LauraMunson.com. All the Haven stuff's there. The Haven Foundation stuff is there too. It's not very prominent. I need to learn how to get it. Like, it's like the last thing you might find. It's a deep dive to find the foundation. I need to flip that. Thank you for helping me, Dave. You gave me a gift in that, and that will help others receive the gift that is the foundation. And the book, buy it. Please support, again, your independent bookstores, local. If you can order it, this book is distributed by Simon & Schuster, so you can get it anywhere where books are sold. It's very easy to do the 2 clicks on Amazon, but what if you just made 3 clicks and went to your bookstore or called your bookstore? If you don't have an independent bookstore, if you want the ease of a click, then there's bookshop.org, which is a great thing to know about if you don't know about it already, because it supports only independent bookstores. And you can choose the bookstore of your liking, or they will choose one for you. That is bookshop.org. And you can get The Wild Why on bookshop.org.
And that's a great why behind that. Now, you said in your journal, at the beginning of our conversation, there was something that you didn't know what it meant. I'm wondering if you figured out what that means yet.
You're good. You should come to Haven. We should lead a retreat together. Let's see. I'm too sensitive. I'm not sure what that means. That's what that line is.
Right.
Well, I will say that, it's pretty obvious to me that not everybody was saying those things to me, right?
Right.
So that comes from being highly sensitive. If one person says, you talk too much, and then you memorize it as truth, and then you spend your whole life memorizing that as your truth, just because one person said it, you probably are a highly sensitive person if that's the case. Most every person that comes to Haven is definitely a highly sensitive person. And I don't read a lot of self-help books. But finally, after being hammered by many people who said, you're a really highly sensitive person, you should read this book. So I read The Highly Sensitive Person. I forget the author's name, but she actually does have letters after her name. She is a psychologist. And there's like a little quiz at the beginning. And I'm like, oh, a quiz. I don't like to be slotted. But I did it. And I totally tested out as such a highly sensitive person. But that was done on introverts. And I've always been very activated by other people my whole life. Even if I'm exhausted, if I get around people, I suddenly have, I just saw this on book tour, like in the bathtub, like, I'll never be able to pull off this event tonight. And then the minute I walk in, it's like, I have all this energy. And so the questions, it's like when you're around people, do you need to go into a dark room afterwards and turn off all the lights? Does loud music upset you? Or, like I answered yes to a lot of those things, but almost every single one I wrote, yes, but I can handle it. And so what I learned from that book, how can I not? Well, you've got the Google, The Highly Sensitive Person. That book changed my life. That woman, that researcher, I realized, why am I walking through my life handling things? Why do I not simply honor the fact that I'm really sensitive and it's probably not good for me to handle it? So it's taught me a lot about boundaries in my life. And again, I'm slotting myself by saying I'm an extrovert, but I can say that I am highly activated by being around people, which makes it really work well for me to be a teacher and a retreat leader and a speaker and all those things. But I also know that when people say, hey, let's all go out afterwards, it's so nice to see you, I know that the answer is, thank you so much for coming, but I need to go back to the hotel room. So I've learned how to protect the sensitivity. And anybody who comes on my retreat, anybody who wants to write, is likely a highly sensitive person who is full of empathy and sometimes to a fault. So a lot of what I teach in the retreat at Haven and then also in this book is how to manage your sensitivity. And I call it the inner colander. So it's like, let's not have total armor. Sometimes you need it, but let's have like holes in the armor. And maybe you get to decide, like, oh, I feel really safe, so the holes can be big and lots of water can flow through. Oh, now these have to be really small. Hardly, that's the inner colander. That's one of my ways to help navigate that high sensitivity and propensity for deep empathy. I'm trying to eradicate the tortured artist paradigm.
One word at a time. You're doing it.
Thanks.
Right. I love it. Laura, thank you so much for making time for us today and for all that you do for authors, for a great new book that I'm going to be sharing everywhere with my community as well. There it is, The Wild Why. Everyone needs to go grab a copy, and I love your direction on where we should be purchasing our books. I totally support you on that, and I think we need to support those small, independent bookshops. Without them, I don't know where we would be as authors. So thank you for making time for us. And again, for all that you do. I'll find you on your local stump out there in the wild. And looking forward to great things coming in the future. Please come back. I'd love to have you back in the future.
Oh, yeah. We need to hang out, Dave. I feel like I just made a friend. I mean,
I love it.
No pressure, but I got a lot of stumps out here.
I got to make my way there. We're not too far away. We could do this.
Totally. Come to Glacier National Park, and then we can go hang out on stumps and talk all about life and empathy and goodness and the wild whys of life. Thanks, Dave.
Nice. Beautiful. Everyone, all information for Laura in the show notes. And again, if you have the ability to support authors who would love to come and work with Laura at the Haven retreat, please donate. I'm sure a small donation and a large donation will be gladly accepted for Laura and her amazing authors. Laura, again, thank you so much for being here.
My true pleasure. Bye, Dave.
Hey, thank you so much again for pressing play. As you've heard, great guests on the show. And one thing you didn't hear in this conversation is what? What did you not hear? Think about it for a second. That's right. Not a single solitary commercial for a mattress or a supplement or a whatever you call it. No. Why? Because we don't want to break up the conversation with commercials. So the fact that you're still here means that you are a fan of the show, I'm assuming. So if you want to help to keep the podcast going and to make me feel really happy, all I really care about is coffee, okay? I just got to be honest. I love coffee. I'm drinking one right now. It's starting to get cold. I need to warm it up. Helping us with our Buy Me a Coffee link over at livingthenextchapter.com and also in the show notes helps kind of keep the lights on around here. Remember, I'm doing this for free. I'm paying for everything. So I would love to have a little coffee donation, even $5. Kind of fills up my cup. And I would love to enjoy a coffee from you. So if you're interested, again, thank you for listening. But you can use our Buy Me a Coffee link and fill up the cup. Thanks for being here.